okay, just to close this topic, I wanted to bring another thing. Don't you think, guys, that might have overload on the developer side? Because as Ras pointed very well, and I agree, developers are responsible for the code. They are creating that code. But what if now they have to deal with Q&A? Now they need to deal with unit tests. They need to deal with full stack, front end, back end, database. Now security is one more thing. Don't you think that they will be overloaded?
Yes, this is what happened right now, right in the industry. This is what we're hearing. The developers are overwhelmed. They don't want to deal with it because they have too much to handle. So we need to have like a lot of stuff during our process to make sure we're not just flooding them with vulnerabilities. So we need to make sure that if we're scanning the PR, for example, we're only commenting on the changes, right? I don't want to be triggered. I don't want to know that I have vulnerabilities in the legacy code or something that someone else wrote. Right now, I'm working on a feature. I have a PR. Just tell me what's wrong with my PR right now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is introducing context. We want to add context to the vulnerabilities. It's not just saying, okay, I have a higher critical vulnerabilities because, for example, JIT only alerts on high and critical. But we found out that you need to add a bit more information on top of that to make sure that you get the developers to only handle what's really, really, really is exploitable and threatening your code, your product. This is what's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a vulnerability is like in a publicly exposed repository, it's going to be high priority, not like compared to a vulnerability that it's not publicly exposed and not in a public repository.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to add that to the developers to also reduce the noise, because what happens right now is they're using tools that are just flooding them with vulnerabilities on any location in the repo, and low and info and medium. It has no context at all. So they don't want to do it. So we really, really focused on building a context engine. And this is like the new thing that we've added to add to the vulnerabilities the context that needed in order to prioritize correctly and reduce the headache for the developers and help them adopt the tools.
Cool. Marcos, do you know that also this context, bringing context to the vulnerability is also important? Because as I said in previous episodes, you go to the doctor and you have 10 different problems. One of them can kill you. But as a human, you want to know all the problems that you have in order to try to fix them. Yeah? You know, like you can have a heart attack next month if you don't stop eating bacon. But you are drinking too much also, so your liver might have a problem in a few years. So even it's a medium vulnerability, we still want to know, because tomorrow can be a high vulnerability. Yeah, and I agree definitely with this context, reducing noise, and this kind of things. But I also it's hard to agree with two things. But I also agree that somehow we should inform, maybe not the developers. Maybe it's a discussion here. Like maybe not the developers. Like okay, you have 1,000 vulnerabilities. No, in your PI you have one that I need to fix. But in the application for the PO, for the CEO, whatever. Like guys, you have big problems here. No, they are not priority now, but they are there, and somehow you need to handle. Marcos, how do you see this? You agree with me? You disagree? You want to be fired from this Devseccortes podcast? Tell me now.
Let's put fire here. I agree with the position because in the future, these medium vulnerabilities probably is taken a high vulnerability, and you have a problem in the future, most probably, or if you're not a high, probably critical or other things. But I think depends on the process when you have to fix these vulnerabilities in the time. Because okay, we have a critical and high to fix at this moment, and you have the middle and low to put in the backlog. And okay, and how many times my backlog needs to stay quiet, and how many times I need to fix this vulnerability. If you have a good time for months or weeks to fix, that's okay. For if you have years to fix, it's not good. Probably you have a lot of problems, and probably your enterprise receive a lot of problems with hackers and other things, and it's not a good. And your reputation and your money, and you solve a lot of resources to fix this. And
Okay.
depends on the process. For me, it's more in the process than the vulnerabilities you see.
Okay, I got it. So vulnerability management would
Yeah.
be the perfect thing, like to address this thing. And I love JIT because of this, because you have okay, your PR has these problems, you focus on this. But doesn't mean that your application or full app or full app has other problems that you should look into it after. Maybe not now, but after. And this JIT, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it brings by default. Yeah, like as soon as you enable it, it will start scanning not the whole application, but PRs and so on and so forth.
Oi, gostou desse corte? Então te aconselho a seguir o perfil que tem muito mais conteúdo e também te convido a continuar o episódio completo na íntegra.